I'm super excited to delve into this game, Lichdom, which I just received and haven't really looked at too much before the video because I want to sort of bring you the experience fresh. Reject death, embrace power. Lichdom is a solo role-playing game about the ambitious journey of a sorcerer toward immortality, about the careful research to find lost knowledge in crumbling tombs and half-buried cities, about overcoming the deathly perils that plague the world by sacrificing your own self, and about finding a way to keep your soul tied to this world at all costs before death comes knocking on your door. Your time is running out. This is a solo role-playing game that is driven by a deck of cards. These are the Deck of Doom that are also published, designed by the same person who did this game, and I'll put the credits up here right now. They are not necessary to play the game. You can use any standard poker deck with the game, as you'll see when we thumb through these. This is a standard poker deck here. And the basic concept of the game is that you're drawing cards and referencing the information in this book to tell the story of your character, of your lich. And we're going to go through I'll read a little bit about the introduction. As I said, I don't know the game and I haven't played it yet, but I will play out at least part of it for this video. And it says here, time passes inexorably, ages come and go, empires rise and fall. Everybody dies, but not you. You are called to survive them all and untangle the most well-hidden secrets of the cosmos, even if the price is beyond what any other mortal is willing to pay. You are called to Lichdom. It is a solo role-playing game, as I said, reading the back of the book, and the book itself is peppered with cool old illustrations and art. The law of the cosmos. You are a sorcerer, one of the few mortals that study the secrets of reality, unearth knowledge long forgotten, and spend the lives of those beneath you like mere coins. You will try to become a lich, a powerful undead sorcerer that binds their soul to the mortal world by some obscure ritual of necromancy, perilous pacts with foul demons, unspeakable sacrifices to forgotten gods, and mastery of other unfathomable truths inaccessible to other mortals. What you need to play is you need 2 6-sided dice, and you need the standard deck of 52 cards to prompt events for the story. We create our character by answering the questions in the chapter Seeds of Ambition, but the intention of these is only to understand who you will be playing as and not to determine the capabilities of your character. All player characters in Lichdom are sorcerers, could be wizards, mages, shamans, spellweavers, enchanters, necromancers, etc., trying to become immortal. And they have the following attributes. They have resolve. So here, there is a character sheet here. I'm not sure how much I'm going to end up using it, but there is a character sheet. They start with, I think they start with 4 resolve. It increases when we succeed and decreases when we fail. Yes, we start the game with 4 and lose the game when we reach 0. Doom represents the descent into darkness of our sorcerer. It increases when we suffer catastrophes or use corrupting powers. And our maximum resolve is 4 minus the doom. So the doom is going to lower the ceiling of our resolve, and that could push you toward your ruin, since the most resolve you can have is 4. So if you have 4 resolve and 2 doom, you really only have a maximum of 2 resolve. Corrupting powers represent the extremely powerful but vile spells and rituals that are seldom used, as the cost is always great on your soul. I guess we'll see how this plays out. Obviously, in the game, I don't necessarily know exactly the mechanics of this yet myself, but just trying to give you a flavor of how the material is presented in the book. A desperate race against time. Each turn of play, you draw a card from the Deck of Doom to face the next event in your story, or find out what resources become available from engaging in unscrupulous schemes and foul rituals. The meaning of each card is described in the sections below. They all include leading questions to shape your world and a few options to define the flavor of the event with a 1d3. Oh, I need to get a 1d3. here. Of course, you could just modify a d6 for that, but I have some d3s I'll get out. Each turn loosely represents a year in the life of your sorcerer, but you can link events as you play to create smaller narratives within your story that occur within a few months or even a few days of time, only to jump several years ahead in time when you feel it's appropriate. Some discussion about the 4 suits of the deck. So hearts are mundane social events. Let's see, they're sort of marked here. So the clubs are arcane, research events such as reading a fabled book bound with human skin or experimenting with the alchemy of the flesh. And the hearts are social events such as the service demanded by a warlord or the vile accusations of a king. Diamonds are mundane violent events such as a treacherous assassination attempt or an escaped monstrosity within your tower. And spades are unnatural events such as an aberrant pact with a demon to slay your enemies or the perilous exploration of other realities. Our goal is to find several fundamental truths of reality before the resolve runs out. Again, the resolve being here at 4, being pressed on by the concept of doom. As soon as you collect at least a mundane truth and an arcane truth, which are represented by the aces, you can attempt to become immortal through lichdom. However, you could try collecting more truths to have a better chance of achieving your ambitious goal. And the way I think it works here is we need to get the truths provide some bonuses for a test that we do to see whether we attain our goal. And then this chart here lists the result of the test. So obviously the higher number, the better in this case, to achieve the goal of lichdom. It says here that it's explaining what the various cards mean. So, for example, narrative events are cards numbered 2 to 5. So I guess that would mean if you pull in this 3 of hearts here, we're not going to do this right now, but if you pull in, sorry, that's a jack. A little confusing there. Here we go. If you pull in this 3 of hearts here, this isn't even a heart. Spades, you would narrate this. So it doesn't necessarily mean you make something up to resolve the story. And here's another look at this piece of art. Some of the art is really great. All right, so scheming and scrying are cards number 6 with some special rules here. Cards 7 to 9, we'll have to refer back to here, our adversity events. All right, we don't need to, I think, go through all of this. It says there are many different paths to playing the game. There's the story mode, which is basically ignoring the specific challenges, that is to say the things that are involved where we're rolling the dice, and instead using all the cards as narrative events to just create a story. We can disregard the rules of resolve. I'm not going to play this way, although I am going to be telling a story, but this is just to show you the different ways. There's here's the nemesis mode, playing with and against a friend. We're not going to do that here. Now, to creating our character, really the backstory of our character. It says, before you start your journey to become a demigod in your own right, it can be useful to have some knowledge of the world your character inhabits, its creation myth, defunct civilizations, world-changing cataclysms, and other wonders of time past. Oh, it says you can also skip this step and start playing right away. So this is a way to develop the world, but I think, of course, I'm going to do this. So it looks like a bunch of d6 rolls here, and let's just get going. We rolled a 1 to start. So the creation myth of our world. Chaos swirls around the edges of the creation, slowly coalescing into matter over timeless periods between the cataclysms that destroy it all back into the sorcerous essence it came from. The borders of the world are always uncertain, as mortal minds cannot endure the swirling chaos for too long. So we exist here, so perhaps this is even more sort of isolationist. We get this feeling of isolation. The lay of the land. You don't need a map to play Lichdom, but you can roll on the following table to discover a few interesting locations in your world as you play, or to draw a map of a mostly unknown world full of perils. All right, I got my dice ready. Now, let's roll. Let's just roll on this table here. This is something to do with the whole world, and doesn't really matter. We'll just line these up. and read across here. We've got a cursed, soundless plain or tundra with a burning lake, an ashen sky, and that is barren. So this is, I think, is this where we're starting out? Or this is, let's see, a few interesting locations. I see. Okay, so that could be one interesting location. Perhaps, maybe I'll even name it. I have no idea if that would be useful at times. I'm going to roll up one more location. Maybe I'll roll up at least 2 or 3. Let's just see, in case we need it. I don't know. We also have, let's see, an unexplored, shattered desert or wasteland with a red river and a volcano, and it's inhabited by savages. So that is another place, and just in case we need it, we're going to get a third place. And the third place is a cursed frozen sea or lake with a burning lake and tunnels that are covered in mist. So those are 3 places. Maybe I'll find a fun way to name them with something outside of here. I don't think there's any place names here, but I like this idea. All right, the perils of our ancestors. These are the ancient times when the first civilizations emerged, the first codes of law were written, traditions were born, and the first sorcerers discovered secrets that would shatter the cosmos if spoken out loud. The ancient denizens, and we'll roll our d6 here. Titans and other enormous creatures ruled the land. I love giants, that's great. The smaller races venerating them as gods. Who created these original races, and why did they disappear? Well, those are some questions to be answered that I'm not going to do as part of this video because I'm already sensing I'm going to have a time issue here. The cataclysm. A meteor fell to the world from the vengeful stars, sinking islands and raising new mountains. The enormous crater created on impact is a cradle for strange creatures and savage cultures. Perhaps if we do draw a map based on what we have there, we also have this concept of a crater somewhere. The present struggle for dominance. This is your time. The cultures and religions that dominate the current landscape sprung from the ashes of the old world. You can roll a couple of times to create a more complex landscape, but also assume that other cultures and obscure religions exist, some of them terrifying and bound to terrors of a distant time. You can add flavor to your results by borrowing cultural depth from real-life cultures. Okay, so the cultural dominance, we got a 6 here. A civilization as fragmented as the islands they inhabit, where warlords lead raids against their neighbors in search of plunder and slaves to maintain the loyalty of their warriors. The nature of the gods and arcane. The 7 gods of chaos are the only remaining gods. The others have been slayed during a terrible war that caused a cataclysm, changing the world forever. Sorcery is seen as a favorable mark of the gods, but also a terrible burden as rivalries grow strong among sorcerers. Perhaps the terrible war, the cataclysm, one of the gods sent down this meteor, that from an even bigger god sent down the meteor to cause that. Your character is a sorcerer trying to become a lich. Sorcerer is used as a general term throughout this book to refer to a wizard, mage, enchanter, witch, warlock, etc. We are initially defined by our imagination with some help provided by the questions and suggestions below, and then we are later affected by the marks of doom we will gain along the journey. We don't need to select or roll to determine attributes or skills. Our only defining numbers are our remaining resolve and our doom. And I'm deciding here, right, I took some tokens from something else to represent my resolve just because I think that will show up better on camera, and I don't know how much it's going to be going up and down, so I'm going to use these here. As it says, we start with 4 points of resolve and 0 points of doom. And I don't know, maybe I'll get some tokens for doom also. I think I'll use these for doom when I have the doom, but right now I don't have any doom, so those will go off to the side. This chapter focuses on defining your character for the fiction you're about to create. Who are you playing as? What motivates you? What are you afraid of? And what do you hate? The rotten seeds of ambition. The following questions can be a useful guide to think about the personality of your character. They are provided with 1d3 suggestions, but feel free to ignore them. I'm going to use one of my 1d3s, so we'll start out. How did you become a sorcerer? I learned from the fading script in an ancient journal of a long-dead sorcerer that failed trying to become immortal, but left unfathomable knowledge behind. Cool, I like that. And what happened to your family? I cannot remember. I recently awakened from an unnatural slumber lasting ages that erased most of my memories, but I don't know if it was my own stratagem or the unwanted consequences of sorcery. 3. What early memory will stay with you forever? The long nights reading ancient scrolls, trying to learn their secrets, while blizzards and direwolves howled outside the walls. Where do I currently live? As the advisor of a noble lord or tribal chief, whom I manipulate to my advantage. Interesting. How do I look? Rich garments and ancient jewels adorn my noble posture, necessary trinkets to navigate the politics of the capital and buy favor. It's too bad I'm not getting an actual benefit from this, because that sounds like it would come with some stuff. Who was your worst enemy? Who was it before, and how did you destroy them? My old friend, almost a brother, who shared my passion for mastering the arcane. We became enemies due to our very different opinions about the purpose of magic and the limits of morality. Why do you look for immortality? True power can only be achieved by research and practice of the arcane through several lifetimes. Some more rules here, I think. Whenever you gain Doom, you're encouraged to come back to this chapter and roll, select, or be inspired by the following tables from Marks of Doom. These marks show the terrible transformation of your sorcerer. In the descent, that might be a typo, to darkness and the quest for immortality. So we've got corruption of the mind and body. We're going to skip over this. I think this is a kind of a narrative representation of when you get Marks of Doom. So it's not just a mechanical thing, although it has a mechanical impact. The path toward immortality. The following sections present the events for all the cards in the deck of Doom, which is here, and we'll shuffle it again to start. The events are arranged in order of pursuit. Okay. Each card proposes an event with a theme dependent on its suit, presents some leading questions for you to consider answering in your journal, and adds a few options to further define the flavor of the base event. You are free to ignore or adapt to the story and your world. Lichdom has several possible endings depending on the result of the Lichdom ritual, and we talked about that a little bit. To get into the position to even try to do that ritual, you do need to find essentially some of the ace cards. Try to connect events with each other as you play, even if you have to adapt past events to improve the narrative. Keep in mind that this is a game about creating good fiction, and the failures of your sorcerer make great plot points in the story. Do not be afraid to fail miserably and recover gloriously. Once you have at least one mundane and arcane truth, those aces, decide to risk it all with the Lichdom ritual. Connect the knowledge provided by each truth to create your own approach to immortality. The Lichdom ceremony must include both a mundane and an arcane requirement. It also gives you here, use the following tables if you need inspiration during your journey. So there are some tables here for dungeons and demons, artifacts and creatures, basically D6 tables with some columns. So we'll see how this might come up if we need to use that. And then the rest of the book from page 45 to almost the end here, before we have the character sheet examples, are the descriptions of basically when you pull in a card, you reference that. Oh, wow, that's the Ace of Hearts. You pull in a card and you reference that, and then that's how you build your story. So I'm going to get us set up here, write down everything so I can remember where we are so far, and then we're going to shuffle this up, and we just simply begin pulling cards and describing our journey toward immortality. Okay, I've done a couple things here. First off, I noted down everything here, not so nicely in a nice journal, but one could improve upon this if one wanted. However, these are the notes based on what has happened, and I've given names to the 3 places in the world that we identified: the Whispering Fire, which is the soundless plain tundra, and it's whispering because it's not quite soundless. There's maybe something making a noise there with a burning lake. The infernal soulbinder of chaos, which is the shattered wasteland with the red river, and Wretched Lake, which is the cursed frozen cedar lake with a burning lake and tunnels. And so we've got a couple of lakes and this red river. Maybe this is a suggestion of blood. I don't know. And I've just noted down all the things we already know if we've been watching the video that came up as background for our character, the perils, the present struggle, etc. And I've also come up with some better tokens for my resolve. I'm going to use these 4 tokens for resolve. They seem a little more resolute to me, and we'll still go with these doom tokens. And finally, I printed out from the rule book a summary of the card type and its effect and how you use it, so that when we draw a card, before we go to the actual reference of what it says, we can sort of prepare ourselves and see in general what we've got. This is the deck of cards. Again, this is the deck of Doom, and it is an adjunct to the game, but essentially this is a standard poker deck, so you could use any kind of standard poker deck. I've already sort of tried to thoroughly shuffle these off camera, and just doing a little last minute shuffle here on camera so you can see that this is totally random, and we will just create our deck. And whoops. As you can see, I sleeve these with something that's it's like kind of sticky sleeve material. It's not the easiest, but I like it because it's sort of thick. All right, here we go. Get 1 card here, and we're going to start with an event. It's a mundane event, and it is the 2 of Hearts. And so we can, well, first of all, per this reference book, this is going to be a narrative event. So if you're drawing cards 2 to 5 here, it's narrative. It has no effect on game mechanics. It's an opportunity for world and character development. And the way we do it is we resolve the event and we discard the card. And actually, I'm happy to start out this way because we're kind of beginning our story, basically. So I want to begin with something that is going to be narrative. So let's see, what do we say here about the 2 of Hearts? The greed of merchants doesn't know limits, and this particular guild pushed a little too far by making demands of someone such as yourself, who delves in magic and secrets that would shatter their minds. But they do have something you need, and you must find a way to snatch it from their greedy hands before someone else takes interest. What unreasonable price did they ask for it? In their hubris, did you pay the price? Can you trust their discretion? And then there is this question of what they're offering. Let's go back to our background here and recall that, let's see, we're living in a fragmented civilization. There was the gods of chaos. Our background here is we can't remember, we're alone in the world here, that we spent long nights as a child reading these ancient scrolls. We learned sorcery from the old journal of a dead sorcerer. Oh, we are a current advisor to a noble lord or chief that we manipulate, okay? We have rich garments. Our worst enemy is our old friend. So let's see. In the story here, greed of merchants, making demands. They have something we need. Well, I'm going to say we're right now we're an advisor of a noble lord, and we're manipulating them to their advantage. So I think this guild somehow is going to be, they have knowledge of the intricate workings of the court. And so I haven't figured out how I'm going to note this down, but we'll just go here, 2 of Hearts, and I'll probably just put this note off camera, but this guild somehow is related to the court that we live in, and they have knowledge of, they have something we need. Well, it's something to do with how the court is working, I guess. Well, actually, you know what? Excuse me, they're offering this. So let's just roll the D3. What are they offering? D3. The petrified heart of a giant fire-breathing serpent. a most precious alchemical component in obscure rituals of necromancy. Well, this giant fire-breathing serpent, we recall that there was a history of the world that it had been, giants had been the gods. What are they asking? Did we pay the price, and can we trust their discretion? So we're going to take this petrified heart, and what they were asking, I think this is going to go to a little bit of backstory actually. They are the ones behind the scenes who are kind of controlling the kingdom or the ruler here, and we are their pawn. So what they asked of us, we took this petrified heart because we think it gives us access to the gods in some way and can be used to increase our power some way in the future. But what they're asking is that we are their servant. So basically, they are the ones controlling us and causing us to be the advisor to the Lord, who's manipulating to the advantage, and it's to the advantage of this guild. So that's basically what I got from here, and we're going to move on and get to a 3 of diamonds. I think that's going to be another narrative card, and we can look back at yes, it's card 2 to 5, so it's going to be another narrative card. Diamonds is also mundane event, is essentially. The vile abomination you created escaped from its foul pit of death. Maybe it was, let me just, I'm going to write down, we have this petrified heart. All right, let me make some proper notes here. The vile abomination we created escaped from its foul pit of death. It killed and consumed many of your servants in a rampage of hate, blood, and desperation. So this heart, this petrified heart that we have, I think we made an attempt to maybe animate it in some way, and perhaps it escaped in the court and caused, well, a rampage of hate, blood, and desperation. It was amusing at first, but you had to finally kill it before it wreaked havoc beyond repair. So we had to destroy this component that we had. The experiment can be considered a failure, as the creature could not be controlled reliably to do your bidding, but at least you gain a wealth of non-sorceress knowledge on the inner workings of several species. What abomination did you create? Well, we tried to animate this petrified heart of the giant fire-breathing serpent. So we tried to recreate maybe that god or something. And how was this monster contained, and how did we kill it? Well, I don't know how we killed it. I think we burnt it to death in some manner. Was this creature your only organic experiment, or one of many in your laboratory? We don't have a laboratory. So this was just something that we had from the guild. And I think the outcome of this death here, I think we have angered this guild in some manner, because we got this from them. So we've angered the guild that we are still beholden to. Why did we create it? Well, I have my own reasons, but let's get a reason from the book also. 3, to clone key powerful figures that you planned on supplanting by your mind-controlled puppets. Well, again, that kind of works with what I had already been thinking, which is that there's the word giant here is sending me back to what I remember was said here about the cataclysm, that the ancient denizens of this world were titans and giants who ruled lands, and they disappeared in some way. So we were perhaps trying to get back to them or something like that. That was our reason. And maybe not a good reason, because I don't think we're a good character, but that was our reason. All right, we're going to pull in the next card here is, I don't know, is this a card? I think this is the Joker. Let me just check this. All right, I've been through the book a couple times. I don't see this as reference. There's 2 of them, so I'm assuming these are Jokers. They're cool, but if I'm missing it, somebody will correct me. And if I'm not missing it, maybe the book could state more clearly that those Jokers are just not in play. I also don't see them on this card type here. So we're just going to skip over this. I suppose thematically, maybe we could, well, we only got one of them, but maybe that's like a redraw card or something. I don't know. In any case, let's just go to the next one. We got a companion. Ooh, a mundane companion. It's a it's a Jack of Hearts. And we will look here to see the Jack card. It's a companion. It says apply +1 to all challenges of the same nature. Discard to neutralize a catastrophe. That sounds pretty good. Discard to apply +1d6 to any challenge. Also pretty good. Keep until discarded for extra effects. All right, let's read about this companion who's joining us. I like this guy, the Jack of Hearts. All right, the Jack of Hearts. You encounter a mortal companion that follows you on your ambitious quest. Their skills will be useful in the mundane world of politics and favors you need to navigate before transcending to lichdom. But do not get too attached. They are mortal and dispensable after all. What is their name? What do they look like? How do you meet? Why do they ally with you? Well, let's roll. I want to roll on the tables first. I keep rolling a 3. Maybe this is I'm not using this anymore. It keeps rolling 3s. I got another D3. I'm going to use this one. All right, at 3. It's an influential merchant of lowly origins that has contacts among the lower castes of society. And what occupies their mind? A large debt to powerful and vengeful people. Okay, let me note this down, and then we'll come back and think about a little bit more detail about who they are and how they are connected to us. Okay, I've noted this down, and I think this guy, for his name, just to keep it clean, we're going to give him a name that starts with a J. We're going to call him Joral. Joral, the influential merchant of lowly origins. Their large debt to a powerful and vengeful people. Well, here's what happened. At the outset of this game, we didn't fully establish where we were, except we know that we were currently working as in this noble house. So I think what I'm sensing is that this guy, so we were advisor to noble lord or chief, so a noble lord, and we were kind of in the castle. Maybe we were in the castle kitchen or something. Well, he's an influential merchant. We met him somewhere. He came to call upon the noble lord that we work for. And in the context of that, when he was leaving, maybe he was trying to sell something or trade something. When he was leaving, we started speaking to him, and we figured out that he too, this large debt to powerful and vengeful people, he too is beholden to the same guild that we are beholden to, that is controlling us, that we learned about in earlier cards. So that's how we met him, and we are going to move on. We're going to keep him with us for now, and we will note down we have the benefits noted down on this cheat sheet of when we can use him. Hopefully I won't forget those benefits, and we'll draw in the next card. This is a mundane adversity. It is a 7 of diamonds, and again, we can first refer to the cheat sheet to see what we are meant to do with the adversity cards. This is going to be a challenge difficulty equal to the card number, so that's going to be a challenge 7. And we need to roll equal or above to succeed, 2d6 plus modifiers. A success is going to increase a resolve, or a failure is decrease a resolve. Now we're still at 4 resolve, so we're told to resolve the event and discard. I do need to go back and see, is 4 resolve the maximum? Start with 4. I'm going to have to check on that. There's only 4 indicated here on the sheet. These are our resolve tokens, as we recall. And this is our sort of inner strength. So I don't know. Well, anyway, let's see what exactly this adversity is going to be. Well, that doesn't look good. You face a legendary beast of tremendous power. Folktales shroud the creature in mysticism and fear, and history books tell the story of heroic mortals that perished in their attempt to destroy its dark soul. Who dies? Where do you fight it? Why do you confront this beast? Let's let's get some information about why we're confronting this beast. Maybe we've moved on. I don't think the beast is going to be in the castle, but you awakened it from its slumber of ages to find answers. What do you ask when you defeat it? Well, I think possibly we're going to say when we had to destroy this vile when we had to destroy the vile abomination that we made from the petrified heart of the giant fire-breathing serpent, and here is indeed a piece of art that suggests this might be somehow connected to it. Its soul or something is connected to it, and it has tracked us down. Let's say we're outside now. I don't know, maybe we were going for a walk or something. It's tracked us down, and well, it says, what is this creature? Again, I feel like I already know. I don't think you need to use these D3 tables, but it's a tentacled horror beyond this world that consumes flesh and light with its demonic maw. Well, okay, it's a tentacled serpent beast thing, and we need to now fight it. And if we win here, we will increase our resolve, and if we lose, we're going to decrease our resolve. So let me get set up for that. Okay, so we are going to encounter this beast, and basically what we need to do is we need to roll 2d6 at or above the challenge level. The challenge level here is 7, so we need to get a 7 or greater to overcome this challenge, and we remind ourselves that a success is going to increase our resolve and a failure will decrease it. Now, the unfortunate thing is that indeed we have 4 resolve. This is the maximum number of resolve that you can have. So in essence, there's no benefit to this encounter. There's only potential negative. So as such, I'm not going to bring in my companion. My companion could be used to give me a +1 benefit to the roll. It is of the same nature. I think this is what it means. The mundane, I think. I don't think it has to be the same suit. I could be wrong about that, but in any case, I'm not using this, so it's irrelevant. The reason I'm not using it is because I'm not so worried right now about losing 1 resolve. So in essence, we're going to just encounter this and hope to roll to overcome this crazy, scary thing, a 7 or greater, and indeed, we did not. So we receive now, we lose a resolve here, and we risked it, and we lost a resolve, so now we're down to 3 resolve, and we're going to move on from this. In the end, had we used our companion, we would have succeeded, but I made the choice not to. We have the companion for later on, and we will lose a resolve. Drawing in the next card, we come to an event, and it is the 5 of spades. You sacrifice a mortal soul to feed the ego of a powerful demon or dark god, trying to gain their capricious favor or avoid their menacing wrath. Either to clean an offense or to seek favor from the dark entity, such terrible acts of ritual murder do not go unnoticed by other mortals around you. For better or worse, your notoriety increases among mortals and immortal enemies. Who do you sacrifice and why have they been chosen? Who is the dark entity and why do you seek to appease or attract its favor? Who notices your advances in the dark arts? Well, if I wanted to be really harsh to myself, whoops, I'll shuffle that back in. If I wanted to be really harsh to myself, I could sacrifice my companion. I could sacrifice my companion, get rid of my benefit, and I'm going to say that thematically, it makes sense for my story, because so this guy sort of tried to ally himself with me, and he did so because we are both beholden to this dark guild. But I'm not trusting of him, and in that previous encounter, he failed to help me, we'll say thematically, and therefore I'm going to turn on him, and I am going to sacrifice him, and let's find out, how do I do that? I do that, I'm rolling a lot of 3s. The day turns night and the moon turns red. The corpse of the sacrifice speaks in an unknown language before turning to dust. What does it say to you? Well, here he is. He's sort of twirling around in the dust, and he's telling me that I am cursed forever and that I have made the wrong choice in sacrificing him, and I will pay the price. And then he vanishes. And I think on that note, we're going to leave my story of Lichdom, at least for the camera, because I don't want to give too many spoilers away in terms of what the various cards represent in the game. And I'll just show you a few more of them here as we talk. This is a really enjoyable, I guess you'd call it more of a journaling game than anything else. I mean, it's a solo RPG, but it's a solo RPG in the journaling vein. It reminds me a little bit of playing Thousand-Year-Old Vampire, just in terms of the feeling of being this isolated, kind of cursed character traveling around in the world with, in this case, the goal to gain what are in essence the ace cards, or as many as you can get before your resolve runs out. Oh, here's another Doom card. I'm confused about these. I'll have to look back in the rules again. To get another ace card here, because you want to have as many benefits when you conduct this ritual as possible, because as we noted at the beginning in terms of the rules, the overall value that you get when you roll the dice and add your modifiers that you have for the ritual is going to determine your ultimate fate and your success. And that's really the quote-unquote point of the game. But really, of course, the point of the game is to create this story, to create a narrative, and to create a world. And the prompts in the book do so, or enable you to do that very effectively. I think if you played through this game again, even drawing in the same cards, you could create a totally different story. Now, my story sort of harkened back to the original roles that I made in terms of the history of my character, which isn't surprising because that is sort of philosophically how I approach solo RPG, that everything has a history, and the history is really what is informing the present. I think in the rules, at least for the creation myth and the kind of world building, it was indicated as optional. I would strongly recommend doing that, because otherwise I think you're floating around a little bit, not anywhere. And the other point on that is, unless I missed it, I didn't see a prompt at the beginning to essentially, before you draw your first card in the deck, to locate yourself somewhere. Now, I might have missed it, but I did locate myself somewhere based on what it said I was currently doing, although I'm not sure the rules suggested that you do that. But I would recommend that also, because where do you live? I then went to say, well, that's where I'm starting out, because while I happened to draw the first card as some kind of narrative building, which helped, you could draw the first card as just like an encounter card, and then you would immediately be like fighting something, and you might not be located anywhere. You might find yourself without something to rest on having a story. And to a great extent, I think the involvement that the involvement of this game will be directly related to the extent to which you can generate a story, because it is a storytelling game in that sense. I was doing this verbally, obviously, for the video. I think many people will play this as journaling, as writing something down, and you could really enhance the theme of it even by having like a cool notebook to write in and stuff like that. People who are way more artistic than I am could find a lot of nicer ways of keeping a record of their lich, and even maybe connecting that to if they replayed the game. Because I do think there's replay value in this game. I mean, in theory, it's infinitely, because you draw one card and you can interpret it in many ways, and even the combat, as it were, encounters have options baked into the D3 roll, or you could also create your own discussion of that further. And some of these tables allow you to, or prompt you to, for example, give like a name to a demon that you encounter, or even a place, a location, a dungeon. I didn't actually use this in the video, but you could even, I suppose you could just do that as a start, like if you wanted to say start in the dungeon. Now, that didn't make sense for my character, to start in a dungeon because I was this royal thing, but I could be here. Well, this would be a fortress built over a maelstrom of fire under one of the largest cities in the world, and a winged horror from beyond the veil is protecting it. That could have been like where I started or something like that. But I would have had to connect that to my story, which I could have done certainly, but there wasn't necessarily a prompt and I didn't get to that. One thing I also wish, there's this artifact table. It would be really cool when you encountered something if you could get an item from it. So you could, of course, roll again. It's a neat table, but there's no way if I got a fragile clay tablet as ancient as the mountains, created by an alien race that came to this world before the cataclysm, and what it did is awakens the dead, but does not give you command over them. You could say you got that, and that's kind of fun and cool to roll up, but there's no way of having it have an official impact on the game. Of course, you could always just make that up yourself. This rule set is receptive to that, and indeed one of the modes of play is simply narrative and not following the resolve and doom. We didn't get any doom, but this very light rule that serves to create some tension. That's randomized tension because it depends on whether you succeed or fail at a task. That is going to put pressure on you and perhaps end the game if you run out of resolve, and bakes in some kind of risk. But you could, as it says, do the entire thing narratively, dispense with that, and even create from this table or others artifacts. If you loot the body of something, you get something, and a very simple way would be adding on that plus or minus mechanic, almost as if it were a companion. I do recommend, if you're playing it, to print this out. This is in the physical book, but it's nice, I think, to have it as a separate sheet, and also for me just to kind of prep myself to have a sense of what I'm going to be dealing with narratively, whether it's a truth, like for example this ace card, a truth or a curse or a plot, and what the outcome would be. I think just preparing myself for the change in narrative direction before I went to actually look up what it was, I found that to be helpful. And as I continue along play, I will find that to be helpful. It's just quite clever, I think, to divide up these card types in the manner of jacks and queens. Jacks are companions, that's kind of thematic to the sense of a jack, or a queen is influence and the king is catastrophe. It gives you a little bit, it builds tension into just the random pulling in of cards, because if you see a king, it's going to be a catastrophe, and it is going to again work with that mechanic to constrain the game. And it says here, even if you get 2 consecutive arcane catastrophes, it brings the end of time. So there's a lot that has been, a lot of use has been made of the cards, and also the fact that I think this is a lovely design for cards, and it does go very nicely with the design of the book, but it's also very, it's great that you can play this with just a regular poker deck that you would have. So you'd only need to get either the book or the PDF. As you know, if you follow my channel, I don't like to play with PDFs, but I should say it is available as a PDF. And again, I'll put the links down below for this. This is a really, really involving thematic solo journaling RPG where you feel the isolation and desperation as the game goes on of your character's quest to attain immortality.